first, I'm going to go ahead and give the medical disclaimer. The information provided is for educational purposes and is not intended as medical advice or a substitute for medical advice of a physician or other qualified healthcare professional. You should use this information not use this information for diagnosing a health or fitness problem or disease, and you should always consult with your doctor or healthcare professional for medical advice or information about diagnosis and treatment. And this information in this presentation has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration or any other medical body. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Dr. Dori Naerbo, and I am your host on today's call. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a clinical researcher and an author of several books. So again, welcome everyone to our, I know I said I was going to change this, our product Q&A call with Clayton Thomas, who is the chairman and the founder of Root. Hello, Clayton.
Happy beginning of March.
Unbelievable. Time is just flying right by. And
it's almost birthday time, and it's almost time for Restore. So we're really excited here. This is honestly my favorite Tuesday every month to get to check in with the community and see all the fun things that are happening for people. So thanks for being here on Tuesday, and well, it's always a surprise for me. So what's in store?
Well, as I said, this is Testimonial Tuesday. And so we're going to go ahead and recap what we talked about last week. And last week we discussed aerotoxicity, and we learned that exposure to emissions from cabin air, whether polluted or not, is associated with certain health risks. And this phenomenon is known as Aerotoxic Syndrome or cabin contamination. And the hidden illness is known to affect the central nervous system, the brain, causing a wide range of symptoms and long-term ill health in approximately 30% of all flyers. And many people are unaware and suffer every day without knowing about this hidden health hazard. And of course, we also discussed about the water samples that were taken that were testing positive for E. coli and coliform bacteria, which means that you should not be drinking the coffee or the tea. Just make sure that you get everything in a sealed bottle, and make sure that after you go to the bathroom, that you don't just wash your hands. You actually have to use a hand sanitizer afterwards. So those were the recommendations based on the scientific research. Well, and as we know, Angel suffers from Aerotoxic Syndrome, and she was just she started CleanSlate in May, started with just one drop twice a day, and her results were immediate. So Angel could not be here with us today, so we pre-recorded her very first Zoom call, which is a testament to the product, I think, because 9 months ago she could not do this or be on the internet. I mean, this is in this amount of time, due to her sensitivity, due to the Aerotoxic Syndrome. So I'm just going to go ahead and play the recording.
Welcome to the call. Here today talking with Angel Brain and Claire G. Harvey, and we're going to talk about Aerotoxic Syndrome. So why don't we just go ahead and get started with your story?
Joined the airlines in 1993, and I was obviously very physically fit because my former career was in health spas and fitness industry, health and beauty. And I flew out to Gulf Air, and I was flying around having a wonderful time. And then slowly my health started to decline. On the countless visits to the Gulf Air clinic, they couldn't tell me what was wrong. And they were just saying, it's jet lag and, you're tired. And maybe you're doing too many hours and this, that and the other. And I was like, no, this doesn't cut it. It started basically with gastric issues, and I was, really quite good in that area. And then it started to go into issues of me basically bleeding outside of menses. So I was sort of bleeding for about a 9-month period. And I was like, well, what's going on? And they're like, oh, it's the pressurization, so we'll put you on iron tablets. I became more and more tired, and I was starting to be a very low personality in the sense that I didn't want to go out, didn't want to be around people. I was finding my hours very difficult. And then I started to sleep loads on my blocks. Some days I'd sleep to 3 days up at a time. And in flight, I started to notice a pattern that when I started to feel really rough, it's because we'd had these incidents where the cabins were hazing. Now, obviously, in those days, we were still smoking on board aircraft.
That's true.
Yeah, so you couldn't identify as you could now because it's a clear, it's clear air.
That's a great point.
Obviously that that's another issue, that there's been lawsuits go through for stewardesses with secondary cancer due to the secondary smoke issue. So we flew a lot of different clientele all over the world, and I can honestly say that economy and business was generally very, very smoky because everybody's sitting having a cigarette.
Yeah.
But it was this very, very strange smell that seemed to accompany these feelings that I was watching in myself and other crew members. And we used to think that, some of the passengers obviously were not giving off very good odour, or maybe someone had taken their shoes off because it smelt like really sort of smelly sock smell. Or likened to a wet dog. And then it started to get really bad on one particular aircraft that I seem to be flying on a lot, where we had what we call stinkers in the campaign, where we had like billowing thick smoke coming into the cabin, which was obviously incurring our ability to operate and to be around passengers. So we've got passengers falling asleep or passing out, and pretty much getting that the same with the crew. And we didn't know what was happening, and it's like, as much as we talked about these things, we didn't know what was happening, because it was never mentioned. It was never mentioned in any of these safety and emergency procedures or any training or anything that we're ever told about emergencies or anything that could happen in flight. This was never part of it. So I continued to fly, and obviously my health declined more and more and more. I was weighing in at 6.5 stone. I was unable to eat. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I couldn't function. And nobody had seemed to wanted to test or do anything that would actually be of any help. I was just basically told that I was depressed, put on antidepressants, painkillers and steroids, which I refused to take because I do not react very well to medication. So, yeah, that's kind of how that was. And then there was a article that appeared in one of the national newspapers, and it was Aerotoxic.org, which is run by Captain John Hoyt. And I thought, this is it. This is what I've been looking for, toxic cabin air. So I rang him up, we had a chat, we met about a month later, and I joined the campaign and said, right, what can we do about this? Because obviously raising awareness and trying to find other crew internationally has been very difficult, because a lot of crew are ill and they still don't know that it was because of their career that actually made them ill. So that was the start. That was 17 years ago, and I've been campaigning ever since, and still working towards finding antidotes to extremely ill health, and I'm lucky to be here, to be honest. we've lost a lot of people in the campaign. And I'm one of many that have just basically taken ourselves out of mainstream. It's the only way to survive this, because you cannot stay in mainstream. You can't be around people. Because obviously the extent of my brain injury is pretty severe. In recent testing that I had in Ostend with Dr. Daniel Dumoulin, he's now probably tested over 70 aircrew internationally. And I've come up in a subcategory with another captain and a frequent flyer of extreme brain injury. This has interrupted my alpha brain rhythms, and this is what he's finding with the other two as well. Well, obviously, you know that if you can't switch from alpha to beta to theta, this is what causes a lot of the anxiety and stress in the body, because the brain can't process, you can't rest. Even when I sleep, I'm not resting. So Daniel actually said to me, it must be hell in your head. And I said, it is, Daniel. So that's where we're at now.
Oh, what led you to CleanSlate, to the Root products?
Claire.
So how did that happen?
Well, I've got I'm just going to turn around here. This has been on my bookshelf for many years. It is a well-read and well-loved book, and I refer to it a lot. So I'm always looking for antidotes to Aerotoxic and trying to help as many as possible. And my route has always been the natural holistic, because as I mentioned earlier on, I react horribly to medications and pharma. So because my background was in the natural health and holistic industry anyway, and I was very used to working in the spa side of that, which is a lot to do with detoxing and changing diets and all this sort of thing. This is the sort of route I follow, because I thought if I don't, I'm not going to survive this. So vibrational medicine has been a big part of my life, flower essences and homeopathy and all these things. And I've referenced to Claire a lot, and I was looking for an essence at the time for electrosensitivity, because that's something that I suffer with. So, because I don't like computers and I don't like mobile phones and I hate Wi-Fi. So I left it in the car, and I thought, she's written this great piece about jet lag, but I kind of want to let her know that it actually might not be jet lag. It's what we call jet fuel lag. So I left this in my car to ring Claire the next day, and lo and behold, I get a phone call from Claire. And we have this great big chat, and I tell her about Aerotoxic, and she's like, oh my goodness, that's awful. The only way to come about this is in a very gentle approach, which would be the vibrational approach, because we've had such bad reactions, even to just supplementation, because we're so overburdened by toxins. So a lot of the therapists we talk to, I've been given 27 supplements to take per day. And I'm like, I'm not being funny, but that's a lot of supplements. That's a lot of interactions. And that's too much for an overburdened liver and, other toxic organs. So for me personally, I would highly recommend that the vibrational route is very effective. It's very subtle, but very effective. And then Claire introduced me to Root. As soon as she said about it, I just got the feeling that, I'm actually, I'm up for trying this. I'm up for trying this for sure, because Claire was kind enough to send over the heart variable testing that you had done on it. And that in itself showed me that, yes, there's something quite special about this formula. And I was like, okay, I've done a lot of chelating. I've done a lot of binding in the past with disastrous results, to be honest. Because, again, our bodies don't work properly. We don't process. We don't eliminate properly. We don't absorb properly. So we've ended up with chronic constipation. I think a couple of people were actually taken to hospital. The vibration of the Root, the CleanSlate, is really high. And I can honestly say that the first time I took it, I felt it go everywhere in my body. And I thought Claire was right. Yeah. And I know that she wouldn't actually recommend something to me that, one, she didn't know a lot about, and yourself, Dori. But
when you first started the drops, Angel, you were on one drop
One drop.
Is that like one drop once in the morning and once at night?
Yeah. Because
Okay,
Claire said to sort of start on, a low dosage. So I thought I'll do one in the morning, one in the evening. And I'm also obviously accompanying that with Claire's detox essence. And I can honestly say that again, when I took that, it blew out some, Claire calls them burn-offs, which, it feels like that. So far I've been taking it for 9 months. Must be about 9 months now. I'm on my second, I think I've just finished my second bottle. And it's putting me through my paces. It surely is, it works. I can say that it works. I'm not enjoying the process, but it works.
Right.
And then I've built it up to 4. I have actually sometimes gone up to 7, but I find that the next day it's like, whoa, it's too much for me.
Yeah.
I think, the whole thing to me about detoxing is that everybody's in such a big rush to get stuff out. With aerotoxic syndrome, with any kind of chemical poisoning, when you start to pull this out of the body, you can actually do a lot of harm.
I remember having the first conversation with Angel when she was referred, but I mean, seriously, how can you not listen to that and go, I think I'm going to try this. I mean, so, well, if you go on the website and you understand the experience she had, she underplayed, what her experience had been prior, and this is what's so crucial for everyone to understand about what we're doing. No one's ever done what we're doing before. And it hits on the rethink conversation that we continually have. But this is something, if done well and if done properly, which is what we're doing with the systemic removal of the metals, the toxins, the pollutants, the chemicals, the biological toxins that destroy us. It is not something that can be done quickly. And I think that's what's so absolutely crucial for people to understand. And it's not something that has taken a couple days for you to get to the point that you're at. And it is not something that is ever going to cease. So she's dead on. This is something that has to be done slow, but it is also something that should be done every day. But if you hear what she's talking about, it's been 9 months and she hasn't gone through more than like 4 or 5 bottles because she's still using only 2, 3, 4, 5 drops a couple times a day. I mean, that's insane. I mean, that's what gets me is we're not talking about spending a massive amount of money, right? She hasn't spent much, but the outcomes you can't put a price on.